Hey, Gocha here. I am the Gob of my sword, bear is my body, and guide making is my blood. Today we'll be looking at Archer, who is our free limited unit coming in patch 3.4, and he is kind of insane. He's a free DPS, but feels like one of the strongest ones in the game right now, with some exceptional performance in MOC and AS. And you don't even need his light cone, but you can get that by just pulling a bunch of other banners. Anyways, let's check out his very simple kit, but why it is so strong, and then I'll show you my Eidolon calculations, as well as the best builds and light cones for him, and then onto synergies at the end. Like and sub and share if this video helps you gamers out, and let's begin. Archer is a Quantum Hunt character and our second of this combo, our last one being the one and only Zealer. For his base stats, Archer has a decent amount of attack. For trace priority, you want to max out his skill, then ult, then talent, and basics can be ignored. Let's now check out his abilities. Archer's skill will make him enter the circuit connection state. He will then deal damage to one enemy with a pretty chunky multiplier. However, after using his skill, his turn will not end, meaning he can use this skill yet again, doing the same multiplier, toughness, and giving the same energy. Furthermore, the skill will get a 100% damage buff after using it up to 2 times. So his first skill is not buffed, but his second gets 100% damage, and his third and any subsequent ones get 200% damage. Kinda massive. Now, an important thing to note is that his skill, unlike anyone else, will consume 2 skill points upon each use, not 1. So remember that SP economy is a big part of his gameplay going forward. Messing it up can lead to a big performance difference. And this big damage buff lasts until the connection state ends, and that state ends upon 3 different conditions. 1. Archer has used skill 5 times already. 2. Archer has no more SP to use the skill, or 3. All enemies in the wave have been defeated. Essentially, Archer can spam out 360% attack multipliers out the wazoo if you provide him with the SP. Now, technically, he can only do 5 skills max in his turn right now, and that needs 10 SP, only consistently achievable with Sparkle, but possible outside of her teams. Anyways, 4 skills is still big, that's a 1440% single target multiplier. And he may be a hunch unit, but he is allowed to choose where these big shots go. You can slam dunk a side enemy, or send everything onto the boss. You can do what you like. It's very, very satisfying and liberating compared to most hunch units. But how do we get SP? Is it just from allies? No. Thankfully, Archer will be regenerating some himself. His talent will consume charge when his allies attack enemies and launch a follow-up attack on the primary target. This will also do a decent amount of damage, but it will then recover 1 skill point. If the attack is AoE or the enemy is defeated, this follow-up just goes to a random enemy. Now, how do we get charge points? The main way is from his ultimate, Unlimited Gob works. It will do an insane 1000% attack multiplier to a single enemy and then give him 2 points of charge. And since we can use this mid-skill spam, it does mean we can, for example, use 6 SP for 3 skills, ult, get 2 ally attacks, and then skill again. This would be, for example, from a Tribi follow-up into ultimate. And this is where a bunch of nuance in gameplay can come from for Archer. His follow-ups can be maximized by focusing on one important enemy, and they can also generate clutch amounts of SP in some situations. The difference between using 8 SP in one turn and 4 SP in 2 separate turns for Archer is the fact that in the first example, you'll get a 100% damage shot and a 200% damage buff for 2 shots, whereas in the 4 SP example, you'll only get 1 shot with 100% damage. Maximizing all of his buffs and enemy debuffs and SP, and then unloading your SP is usually how he wants to be played. Now, another way to get charge is from his technique. It's a very simple technique dealing damage, but also giving him 1 point of charge, essentially a free skill point for your team. And the final way is in his passives, so let's check them out. First off, his A2. When Archer is on the field, you get a max skill point limit increase of 2, so you'll have 7 SP total as your cap with Archer alone, 9 with Sparkle, and 10 with Sparkle E4. But you do not need E4 Sparkle at all, don't worry. Anyway, with 7 SP available and 2 charge points with his ult, he can nearly perform a 5 skill rotation, only requiring 1 SP from somewhere else. Now, his A4 will give him 1 charge upon entering combat, combined with this technique, and you now get a free 2 SP for your team to use, which is very strong for his initial rotation. And finally, we need a Mega Self buff, so we will get one. After allies gain SP, if there are 4 SP or more present in your pool, then Archer will get a 1-turn 120% crit damage buff. This should definitely be up on your important turns, as we will want to go into his explosive turns and use everything when he has enough skill points anyway. Finally, in trace bonuses, he gets 3 beneficial ones with crit rate, attack, and quantum damage. Thank you. Now, before checking out his builds, let's check him out, with his Eidolons of course. He comes out swinging with a pretty balling E1. Upon using skill 3 times within 1 turn, he will regenerate 2 SP for the team. Considering SP is literally his lifeblood, this is pretty big. Remember though that he clears amazingly at E0, I just like this E1 a bunch for him. It allows for more SP intensive second support units and helps him in general feel nicer to play. His E2 will then apply Quantum Weakness to an enemy, as well as reduce their resistance by 20% when ulting. It sounds cool, but it's not too special unless you're into a fully single target fight. E4 then gives a massive but simple damage percent boost to the ultimate. Honestly, not bad for an E4, but nothing game changing either. And finally, Archer's E6. When his turn starts, he will regenerate 1 SP. Pretty cool. And then he will increase his damage boost effect cap by 1. This means his skills can now have 300% damage after using 3. And finally, 20% def ignore on skills, a final nice boost for Archer fans. His Eidolons aren't very complex, so no notes really on my Eidolon calculations here. The only volatile one could be his E1, as you could clear in a cycle breakpoint without needing it to generate anything, but let's be real, that's super niche. This Eidolon is really good. And for builds, he is relatively simple. He's a quantum DPS that self-buffs a ton. We want to use the OG Genius set on him for sure. Since he is a hunt unit, his base speed is just too fast to max out the poet set's conditions sadly, so we'd only get 20% CR, but it's still okay. The only other options really are Wave Strider and Scholar. Wave Strider is actually decent if ulting at the start of his turn, but that's not always possible and sometimes not even wanted. And then I did a separate comparison between Genius and Wave Strider when paired with Resolution Silver, just to show how crazy it gets when stacking Death Shred. Try and farm it if you can for him. And then for Planars, run Rutilant Arena or Inner Sal Soto, ideally Rutilant Arena as we are mostly cooking enemies with his skills, not much else to say here. Archer's main stats will be Crit Chest, Attack Boots, Damage or Attack Orb, usually Attack, and then an Attack Rope. Not much variation, but he can run Speed Boots in a -1 speed setup with Sunday in case you don't have Sparkle, as it would allow him to generate more SP than a base speed setup with a basic into-spamming skill rotation. In general though, just go attack, as you will need to set up buff timers and generate skill points before his turn. You will want to hit 3000 to 3500 attack thanks to the abundance of attack main stats, then absolutely aim for 100% crit rate in combat, and then the rest can go into crit damage. He will want to run base speed, and only in -1 Sunday setups will you run 135, but more on that later. And now let's look at that beautiful light cone of his. You can get it by just pulling 200 times in 3.4 on other banners, for example Sabres or Finals or Sundays, which is kinda neat, but it is not necessary. His signature has a decent base attack and a decent crit rate buff. It will then check for a 6 SP or higher limit, and if you have that, you'll get a permanent 40% attack buff. Therefore, it's stuck to Archer or Sparkle teams as of 3.4, and Sparkle teams aren't top meta right now. Regardless of the SP limit, after each skill use, you will get a permanent 10% attack buff up to 4 times. And max power, this is therefore a 16% CR and 80% attack buff. So for anyone not named Archer, I wouldn't get it. Stellar C is free, but now here are my light cone calculations on him. As we can see, Stellar C is not that far behind. This SIG is a stat stick. It doesn't have kit mechanics like Finance or Sabres. The only problem I have with Stellar C is that you have to build around the non-permanent crit rate, and I hate missing crits on Archer. So how good is he? I think my thumbnail and or title are probably spoiling my take, so you probably want to know why. Well, he just feels like a beast right now. His single target damage is immense, and so in MOC and AS, he just obliterates the elites and bosses. You will need to set up a good team rotation, set up buffs and debuffs correctly, and then maximize SP, when you've done all that, he will just blow stuff up. It's like Finan, where you need to make sure he's got everything he needs before spamming all that SP, just like Finan needs everything before he ults. And he can have some mixed results if you don't do all that, and there are further optimizations you can do. You might want to focus abilities on certain targets for his follow-ups to hit. You might want to wait on attacking in case his follow-up might waste SP generation. You might want to save attacking ults during his big combos so that he can spam skill, ult, follow-up and regain SP, and then skill again. For a very small kit length, he has a lot of min-maxing, and that's what I love about Hunt units. He has a really high ceiling and one of the highest in the game right now, and should have the highest single target performance in the game. As for game modes, in PF he is despair unless we get a 0 SP cost one or something. I tried running Jade Herter, but then you need to run Sustainers to get buffs, and that's not always safe. Jade E1 or Herter solo with a Tribby maybe? Like, he can spam 4 to 5 shots and each one can proc a Herter follow-up, but it doesn't do much damage. Maybe there's a way. But he will only really be optimal in MOC and AS, and that's just fine. MOC is just generally good for his kind of playstyle unless it's full AoE shield like when the Hurt came out, but because a lot of bosses are summon based and he has such high raw damage, he can just nuke the main enemy and the summons will disappear. And in AS, he really likes when the mechanics give maxed out SP or maxed out energy, which are very common. If I had to rate him, I'd say tier 0 in MOC and AS when considering a team of E0S0 Archer, E0S1 Sparkle with Sunday Cone, E0S0 Tribby or Silverwolf or Cipher, and then Gallagher. Speaking of all those characters though, what about his teams? From what I can tell, he follows a kind of strict team setup. I'll go through each slot one by one and what to do with said unit. You will first want Sparkle or Sunday in the first slot. That's right, they handcrafted a DPS that would make Sparkle shine. With Sparkle, you run her high speed, 160 is the ideal minimum, and 167 with Eagle Set and a Dance second teammate is a min-max option for 0 cycling. Her best light cone will be Sunday's light cone. Why? Firstly, because of the SP. Say you're at 8 SP and she skills and Archer acts. Archer will then act with 7 SP. It's a really annoying scenario, and Sunday's light cone will, every other skill, generate 1 SP. Meaning here, you'd instead have 8 on Archer's turn, and therefore have a 4 skill rotation with no problems. Another reason is that you can sometimes hit a 2-turn ult rotation on Sparkle, and going from a 3-turn to 2-turn rotation is insane for SP economy in Archer teams. That's 4 SP every 2 turns rather than 3, or 2 SP a turn without considering the light cone itself. The way it works is that you need a quid pro quo proc or a lot of enemy hits, but Gallagher will be here to save us on that one. But you can also still use Dance Dance Dance, especially if not using it on a second slot support like Tribby. And you can use her signature or planetary rendezvous or Bronycone as damage boosting stat sticks. Now on to Sunday. Yet again, we want his cone because he actually needs it to properly generate SP. For Sunday, you can run hyperspeed just like Sparkle, but I actually prefer running a -1 setup with Archer. Just like we did back in the day in 1.3 with Bronya Dill, we will use the extra turns from a -1 setup to generate SP. Skill points are what fuels Archer, so anything we can get is a good thing. You will basic, Sunday skills, and then you can do Archer's rotation. Sparkle is the best because of her synergy with Archer, but also because she can generate a burst of SP out of nowhere, allowing for 5 skill turns. Sunday is still immense though due to his generally strong buffs as well as his SP generation at E0S1. But also, do not forget that more turns from a -1 setup is more energy, and on top of Sunday's 20% energy gifting, you will get a bunch of ults from Archer. Remember that every Archer ult is equivalent to 2 skill points, so getting them faster is a bonus, even with the weaker overall SP generation. Now in this slot, if you have neither of these 2 units, you can replace them with Hanya or Tingyun for a free-to-play friendly option. Hanya would be generating SP with her talent, and Tingyun would be giving energy for Archer to ult and generate SP himself. They also both offer speed in various ways, which would let him hit necessary breakpoints that you can't normally hit without an advanced forward unit. But then comes the second slot, and really you can use any high uptime universal amper, but the best will be Tribby, Cipher, or Silverwolf. They offer the most unique multipliers and a lot of it, and they also have some very strong utility. Mono Quantum is back in the weirdest way. Tribby will come in clutch if you're against AoE, as her large AoE damage will help supplement his single target focus. She can also wear Dance 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 to shorten rotations in Apocalyptic Shadow, or she can pair this cone with an Eagle Sparkle to hit 3 Sparkle turns in a 0 cycle. With 3 Sparkle turns, you can hit some crazy damage in a very short amount of time from Archer, and you'd even have a break period where you can generate SP. Now, Cipher will store up all that juicy damage he does and allow you to use it when you want. This is seriously nice for his downtime if your team no longer has the SP. I think they are such a powerful single target duo. She is also completely skill point positive, unlike the other two units in this slot, which is very useful for more comfortable runs. Furthermore, her holding her ult creates a unique bonus unlike any other unit. Quid Pro Quo Gallagher is amazing for Sparkle and Archer in general, and Cipher not being able to steal it means you have more consistent energy gifting and thus energy rotations. It's very nice for a 2-turn ult Sparkle. And finally, Silverwolf is a beast now, especially into single target, with the highest single target damage amp in the game when considering similarly invested support. With Resolution or Cypher's Light Cone and the Quantum set on Archer, well, you are hitting near or even over 100% Def Ignore, even if going over 100% doesn't do anything. But this is a seriously stupid damage amp to have on your team, especially with all these high self buff he already has. The Quantum Weakness Implant and Res Reduction is such a nice bonus too to help brute force content. Which you choose depends on which you have open, and if you can use all three, then I just say Tribby into AoE, Silverwolf into off-element fights, and Cypher otherwise, or if you need her skill point generation. I mean, they're all really good for him, and can all work in each other's scenarios. If you don't have any of these, well, RMC is still really good as always. The true damage is lovely to have, and Archer has such a high energy cost that the buff will be capped out. I'd say the only problem is the advances might mess up some SP economy and advance from Sparkle. And Pella is a final option as a weaker but 4-star version of Silverwolf. Yes, we can say that now. She would have Shred to help stack with the Quantum set, but then she would also be completely skill point positive, which is a nice bonus. For healers, it's none other than the god of all healers yet again, Gallagher. This guy cannot take a break. His SP generation is unmatched. We need a healer that can generate SP once a turn, and he takes more turns than anyone else. But the fact that he can double turns back to back is just really strong for Quid Pro Quo abuse, and we will want that for Archer in general, but also for Sparkle 2-turn ult rotations. Him being able to enable that semi-reliably will allow the team to generate even more SP on top of his already substantial amount. You can replace him with Lawatcher basic spam, Aventurine basic spam, and even someone like Hyacinth basic spam after she gets her first Eka out, as she doesn't need to skill to heal up your team well, to be honest. But Gallagher will be the best. So for a premium team, you'd go Archer, Sparkle, one of your 3 choices, and Gallagher. For a free-to-play friendly team, you'd run Archer, Anya or Ting Yun, and then Gallagher strikes again. I really hope you enjoyed this look at Archer. I really think he's insane once you know how to set him up correctly. I am surprised they gave him for free, but I will not complain. Let's see if the next freebie is just as strong. Like and sub and share if you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching. Thanks to my amazing YouTube members, and have a Guoba day.